參加計劃免費簡單。Scene 1 Take 1 Action。
筆有，身份證有，現金有，信用卡都有埋。
卡，我哋依家係拍緊大腸癌篩查計劃嘅真實個案啊！你搞咁大陣仗做咩啫？
好簡單㗎，係我侄仔鼓勵我去參加，初步驗到大便有隱血，好快就安排去做大腸鏡檢查，發現有3粒息肉，醫生就即場幫我切埋，照完冇幾耐就食得嘢，成個過程比我想象中舒服，而且啲醫護人員個個都好細心，幫我跟進同解釋。
其實成個篩查計劃都安全、有效、快捷、方便、簡單，仲要係免費添。年滿50至75歲嘅香港居民都適合參加，仲等？即刻打35656288問下。
中招冇樣睇 Scene 2 Take 1 Action。
卡，你做乜嘢點嚟點去啊？
身體唔好先有大腸癌㗎嘛，咁我咪扮唔舒服咯。
你望下何生，佢個樣啊點睇都健康過你啦，生息肉冇樣睇㗎。
係啊，我本身冇病冇痛，成日行山飲食又健康，以為冇事㗎。參加計劃之後，估唔到驗到大便有隱血，於是就安排咗去照腸鏡。雖然飲食有少少辛苦，但係做腸鏡嘅過程一啲都唔痛，仲幫我切埋4粒息肉。
其實成個篩查計劃都安全、有效、快捷、方便、簡單，仲要係免費添。年滿50至75歲嘅香港居民都適合參加，仲等？即刻打35656288問下。
No matter how fit we are, it is important to get vaccinated to prevent COVID-19. All along, we have received different vaccines to prevent infections. Vaccines will help create antibodies and memory in our immune system. When we come into contact with viruses in future, our immune system will quickly resist them. It is the simplest and most effective method to protect ourselves and others. Remember to get vaccinated.
你揀邊個？
呢個。
你呢？
呢個。
多喐動能減少患心血管疾病、糖尿病同癌症風險㗎，小心在以待。拜。
Good afternoon. Warm welcome to the online seminar on mental health and resilience amid COVID-19 crisis. The webinar is one of the activities from Joyful at Healthy Workplace and the Mental Health Workplace Charter programs. There will be a short Q&A session after the speaker's presentation. You may submit your questions in the conversation box. There will be also a polling session. Participants fail to answer polling question within the specific time are not eligible for the attendance certificate. Going back to today's theme, it's been over a year since the outbreak of COVID-19. People worry about themselves or their family members being infected, or fear of losing their job. Plans and daily routine may have disrupted, feeling unsettled and stressed. Ethnic minorities in Hong Kong are among the vulnerable groups who may have limited access to information about stress management and mental well-being. We are pleased to have today's speaker, Dr. Nimisha Vandan. Completed her PhD from the University of Hong Kong. She is also a former postdoctoral fellow at the School of Public Health in Hong Kong U. Dr. Vandan is the founder of a social enterprise, Okayminds, which aims to raise people's concern on mental health. In the next hour, she is going to share mental health tips and ways to maintain mental wellness. Dr. Vandan, please.
Thank you. First, I would like to thank all the participants to join this webinar and taking time out for the very important topic, which is mental health and how to keep yourself mentally healthy. And I would like to extend my gratitude towards Occupational Safety and Health Council also for inviting me to this webinar. So without further ado, let's start and try to understand how best we can keep our mind healthy and also work on not only ourselves, but also our friends, family members, and the community. So today's topic is mental health crisis during COVID-19 pandemic. And we are going to learn some tips and tools to maintain mental well-being. So as we all know that this COVID-19 for the whole last year, and if you see the crisis situation in Hong Kong, it started from 2019 and then subsequently we had 2020, this COVID-19 pandemic. So for the last 2.5 years, we are having some social as well as public health crisis. So this all is impacting our mental health. So let's understand what is health and well-being. We often talk about health and well-being as an umbrella term, but let's understand what is health and well-being. And also this good health and well-being is SDG, one of the number 3 of the SDG goals as UN described. So it's very important to be healthy, and not only at the physical level, but also at the mental level. So according to World Health Organization definition of the health, it's a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or any kind of infirmity. So even though you are just not having any kind of disease, you cannot call yourself as healthy unless you have your 4 dimensions, which is physical, mental, and now a spiritual dimension have also added along with the social dimension, and their well-being should be at the free of any kind of disease or infirmity. So well-being, once we try to understand the well-being, it's an active process. Like you do some kind of yoga or meditation or some breathing exercise or hiking or any kind of physical exercise or any kind of other exercise to keep yourself healthy at the physical level or the mental level, that comes under this active process. We can call it as a well-being process. So it's an active process of becoming aware of making choices. For example, you go to any restaurant for your lunch or dinner, but you choose the dishes which has less salt, means sodium level, or less sugar level, or less oily or fatty substance. Or if you eat more fruits and vegetables as compared to the meat, or if you eat more fibrous stuff or more home cooked food, or so those kind of things are again an attempt to make yourself healthy. And this is the active process of becoming aware of making healthy choices. Then well-being is more than being free from illness, as I talked before. So it is a dynamic process of change and growth. So once you understand that you are not feeling well, or maybe you can feel that you have gained a lot of weight, or or any other physical or mental infirmity, if you face or if you experience, then accordingly you start making the changes in your lifestyle, in your food, in your work pattern, or anything. That is again the well-being process. So well-being is 3 things mainly you need to remember. For being healthy, you need to take care of well-being, and well-being is making aware of making proper choices, then it's a dynamic process. You need to keep on. It's not that once you choose something to do something like, okay, I make choice of doing exercise, like 30-minute walk. But it's not that every whole life you need to keep on sticking 30 minutes of walk. According to your stamina building, you need to increase the time you are doing in terms of exercise, and it also implies with your food, your diet, your anything. So it's a dynamic process of change and growth. You need to keep on doing that. Now let's talk about the mental health also. We talk about the physical health, talking about diabetes, hypertension, cardiac problem, or many other problems like cancer, AIDS, or several medical conditions we talk, and this all comes under the physical health issue. But we seldom talk about our mental health. And once I name the term mental health, it has mainly covered the areas of your mental well-being, means your cognitive ability to learn something, to keep having the memory of that learning thing, as well as a big dimension of your emotional health and social well-being. So mental health, here we will exclusively talk about the emotional well-being as well as our social well-being, how to work on that and how to keep our mental health in a good state. So as I talked just a few seconds back, that mental health is as important as physical health. So I would request all my participants not to ignore your mental health status. Just having good body shape or body image or body weight, eating good diet, that is also helping to improve your mental health, but mostly it is working on your physical health. So for keeping yourself mentally healthy, you need to learn few more steps how to do that and how to make yourself mentally healthy as well as physically healthy. So we all know the importance of mental health, and it is as important as our physical health, but we often ignore our mental health, and that results in a very severe condition of our mental health in the society. If you see at the global level across the whole world, then according to the WHO, that is World Health Organization, they say that 1 in 4% suffer from mental illness at some point of time in their life. It means if you are sitting in a classroom or in a picture hall or any place, any auditorium or anywhere, then someone in front of you, someone sitting back at you or left side or right side, 1 in 4 of them is suffering from mental illness. So you can see how prevalent this mental illness condition in our society is. Not only this mental illness, because most of the time, the mental illness, we take it very lightly, or we say feeling depressed or anxious is a mental illness. These are few examples of mental illness. And most of the time we can see that a person who is suffering from mental illness, most of the time it starts from very simple trigger, any simple stressor, which makes that person depressed or anxious. And then if not taken care properly, the whole continuum from mental health to mental illness, then it goes to mental, once a person is suffering from any mental illness, not being treated properly or taking care of the situation, then most of the time it ends up in self-harming. And one of the big thing they do is committing suicide. And this is very shocking to see that as per World Health Organization, over 800,000 people commit suicide every year. And if I want to rephrase it, it is 1% dies because of suicide in every 40 seconds. So see, this webinar is of 1 hour, and you can count how many people in the whole world are going to die because of suicide in just this much of period. And all this suicide and this self-harm situation, it all starts from very simple trigger, which often we call a stressful situation or stressors. So this is stressful situation or the mental health situation or the mental illness, if we see, it is very prevalent among the minorities in the world. And when I say minorities, it can be sexual minority, it can be racial minority, it can be ethnic minorities. So in any communities, minorities bear disproportionate burden of mental illness when we compare to their majority counterparts in any country of the world. So let's understand what are the reasons which make minority most vulnerable group having these kind of mental illness or bear disproportionate burden, or there is disparity among the prevalence of any kind of illness, either physical or mental illness. And when we are talking here about the mental illness, let's understand the reasons why the ethnic minority population suffered the most. First thing we all know, because most of the ethnic minority population in any country of the world, they migrate. Most of the time they migrate from one place to another, and once they migrate, they need to have very different kind of they face very different kind of languages, culture, way of living, lifestyle, people, food. So everything gets changed for a minority population, especially when we talk about ethnic minority population. They move, they migrate, and then they need to face. So there are many researches which tries to understand why our minority population, specific ethnic or the racial minority population, face disproportionate burden of mental illness when we compared it with the local majority population. So today I would like to share 4 main reasons which indicates the challenges what ethnic minorities face and what causes their poor mental health. So first thing, we will talk about the language ability. And when we see in our Hong Kong society, this is one of the biggest challenge also which our ethnic minority facing in terms of the Cantonese language ability or the English language ability, because there are a big proportion of ethnic minorities who are not still, even though they are living here for hundreds of years, still they are not able to cope up with the language requirement or the level of the language they want for conducting their day-to-day life. So language ability is the biggest reason where they are not able to understand the information provided from the healthcare system or the government, like what are the resources, what are the services available, or what is the health information which they can use to make their life better. For example, we talk about this COVID crisis. During this COVID crisis, there are a lot of NGOs, they spoke out, they raised their voice that government is not providing linguistic and culturally sensitive information, health information material about how to wear mask or where to find mask, or how to wash your hand properly, or how to keep your house safe or your children or family members safe, or what are the resources or the services available from the government side, from the healthcare system side, which our ethnic minority population can use. So once different NGOs raised their voice about this discrepancy in the availability of the information, then government acted promptly and changes their policy to make more linguistically appropriate health information. And that helped a lot of ethnic minority to prevent themselves from catching the COVID-19 virus. So that way, this is a collective effort, how the problem came and how the society acted promptly, how the government acted promptly to make things work. Second thing, lack of cultural competency. So whenever we talk about interaction with the healthcare system or the health services with the minority population, the lack of cultural competency of the healthcare provider in whole world came out as the biggest challenge, because in many countries where there are multicultural population living, then majority of the healthcare providers belong to the majority ethnic group. And that reflects the lack of cultural sensitivity. For example, if a South Asian woman, especially if a women from the Islam background or Muslim background, when they go to the healthcare provider to seek help, just for example, if because in Islam or the Muslim culture, it is very dominant culture that women seek mostly, they prefer mostly female healthcare providers. So if it is not fulfilled properly, then most of the females from that community will wait until they go back to their country, or they will try to avoid as much as possible to seek any kind of healthcare. Or there are many times when healthcare providers don't understand the diet of the minority communities, or any other cultural preferences which the minority communities have. So in that situation also, there are a big issue between the providers and the patients of culturally diverse background, and it causes a lot of problems for the minorities. Then whenever we talk about the mental health, we can't move beyond talking about without talking about the stigma and the shame associated with this mental health issue. Because in any society, this is considered, especially when we talk about our Asian culture, Asian society, we are known as a collective society. Like my pride is related to the pride of my family. If I do something wrong, it's not only I'm harming my reputation, I'm harming my family reputation. And that collective norm and the family pride comes as a big barrier in Asian culture seeking mental health care, because that brings shame to the family, and that a patient don't want, even the family member don't want to reveal the fact that one of my family member is suffering from any kind of mental illness. So this brings a lot of stigma and shame in the community. And once we talk about the minorities community, it is very prevalent. Being in a different place, not of your own origin, make them more the feeling of hide, because that is also related to their immigration status, their their jobs, their because when you talk about minority communities, their society, their community is very close knit. As compared to the same minority living in their own country, this is very much different, that how a society become so closed when they're migrated to some other place. And because of this very close, tight-knit society, any news, such news which is negative and which you don't want to spread in your community, is spread very quickly and may bring them shame. And because of that, many people don't want to share. Then again, I talk that in the any country, majority population have the chances of getting better education and becoming more healthcare providers. And because of this reason, because of this lack of diverse healthcare providers, there is a higher chances that people of minority background don't feel comfortable seeking help or seeking health care unless it is very urgent from the providers of different communities. So let's try to understand the mental health status in Hong Kong in general, because as I talked before, because of the socio-political unrest followed by this public health crisis, this COVID-19 crisis, for last 2.5 years, we all are suffering from different kind of challenges. And that made the mental health status very vulnerable for the whole Hong Kong population. There are studies which shows that 1 in 7 people, like we talked before, that 1 in 4 person in the world suffering from mental illness, and then situation is not very much different. It is estimated that 1 in 7 people in Hong Kong will experience a common disorder at any given time. So this is also an alarming figure, which we all need to understand that if you are going somewhere, then within that 7%, if you are going for dinner or something, and there are 7 people, then one of them may suffer from any kind of mental illness. And as Humphrey mentioned before, that I did my PhD from Hong Kong University, and I tried to understand the physical and the mental health related quality of life of South Asian minority group in Hong Kong. And I compared their this physical and mental health related quality of life with the Chinese people in Hong Kong. And this study was more than 1,000 population, 500 of both groups. And we found that South Asian ethnic minority population have 3 times lower physical and mental health related quality of life. So either, because this was a self-reported study, that the participant reported by themselves that last 2 weeks, what was my mental health situation or my physical health condition. So we used veteran rank 12 questionnaire, that is a widely used questionnaire. And this finding, the 3 times lower finding, is quite alarming figure, which our NGOs and the government need to take care of. And when I talk about South Asian ethnic minority, I conducted interviews with the people from India, Nepal, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Sri Lanka. So 5 nationality people, and then I compared them with the local Hong Kong Chinese people. There are other studies during this COVID-19 pandemic, which shows, like earlier, this 1 in 7, when we talked about, this is study 1 in 7 is from 2018, like before the crisis. But this study is during 2020, this last year, when there was COVID-19 pandemic. And this deteriorated the whole mental health situation of the Hong Kong population. We found that this study from Hong Kong University, they again found that 1 in 4 person reported deteriorated mental health. 1 in 5 suffer from depression, and 1 in 7 from anxiety. So we can see that how this crisis impacted the mental health condition of the population in general. And then if you go specific and try to see the disease, then depression and anxiety came up as the biggest challenge or biggest problem which people are facing. Let's talk about the mental health status of ethnic minority population during this crisis, because as in the last slide, we see that people in general, population in general, had deteriorated their mental health status. And when the ethnic minority population, which is again a vulnerable population, they got this crisis double hit. So they were migrant population. So not only they face the mental health crisis in terms of losing their job or risk the chance of getting risk of catching the virus, but they also faced the isolation, discrimination, and not only this, the risk of catching infection was the biggest challenge. But when we go beyond and try to understand, then the biggest challenge which impacted the ethnic minority population is the poverty. Most of because unemployment in general was a very natural phenomena which impacted the whole population. But when we go beyond and try to see the EM population before crisis, their employment status was again very low. And because of this crisis, where there are a lot of unemployment, that impacted them even more. And because of this poverty situation, the loss of their employment, there are many other issues, just starting from the family. Like there are more family conflicts, there are more divorce rate, there are more child abuse, there are more domestic violence, and move beyond. There are many teen marriages, like forced marriages of the teen occurred in the minority population. There in like mental abuse, physical abuse, this kind of forced marriages of the teens, and the social because they felt very isolated, and not only this, followed by there are many issues happened during this COVID-19 crisis that made them more marginalized. So the ethnic minority children, their education, because if you see the minority population, most of them were below the poverty line. And once there was loss of job or fear of losing job, that created more havoc in their life. And once they had all the children and family members staying at home, they need some online support for education. And many of the minority family didn't have proper internet connection or proper devices for their children to learn from the school. So that created a lot of tension or the anxiety among the parents. Then there is one more burden on the mothers to help their children in finishing the homework. Then again, the language came as a barrier, because there were very less teachers who can teach minority children the Chinese language. That shortcoming of the children, the shortage of the number of Chinese teachers came again as a big problem. Then this all impacted the education of the minority population. So unemployment was again at a risk. Many people lose the job. Then there was some veg freeze, and there are many other policies which came. And not only this, there was like discrimination or some prejudice or bias because of some statement coming in the society, that also created a lot of problem in them and in the minority population. And this all worked as a stressors for them to go through any kind of mental health challenge. So if I want to just briefly summarize the stressors, which we can see in general population, but this is more problematic for the minority population, let's start with the unemployment and the poverty. Because most of the, if you see most of the Nepalese ethnic minority community, even the Pakistani minority community, they used to work in, they mostly are in the elementary occupation, and that elementary occupation was most hit. So, like food and beverage industries, restaurants, airports, those all are the sectors which got hit badly, and then most of the people lost their job. Then the poverty, then social prejudice and biases, language and cultural barriers, then conflicts among the family members, online school and office works, and fear of catching the disease was the major stressors among them. Let's understand this stress, because any mental health situation, if it is related with the emotional challenge, then it all starts with the stress. emotional or psychological, you can say that all starts with stress. Let's understand the stress response cycle. So as we see in the normal stress response cycle, we have this fight or flight response, right? If we see any kind of threat or danger, then our body get activated and it say that there is danger, you need to act. And because of that psychological phenomena, when you see the danger, there is physiological changes in the body. Then there are some hormones which is released, mainly cortisol hormone, which is also known as the stress hormone, which activated our body to help us in fight or flight or tackle that challenge. But what happened when this when even the stress, that situation finish, then your body becomes the normal calm state. So generally the baseline is calm state. When stress comes, then it changes and it again becomes the calm state. But what happens when you are in the longer exposure of the stress? You are in the continuous status of stress. For example, this COVID-19 crisis, one or the another thing created stress in the people, and they could not come back to their calm state, and for a longer and longer period of time they were in this that is stressful state. So what happened if we are having more level of cortisol? This is the stress hormone in our body. So it all starts with making you more anxiety, depression, headache. Then it weaken your immune system. Then it is very easy for you to catch any disease, starting with heart disease, high blood pressure, high blood sugar, your digestive problem, your nerve problem. So it impacts every part of your body. Once you have high level of cortisol, that is known as a stress hormone, and that is because of your body cannot go back in the calm state. So because of this stress, that if the situation persists for longer period of time, and mainly we say that if it persists more than 2 weeks, then people feel depressed or anxious, or commonly known as depression or anxiety, and in between the person travels. So main symptoms are feeling frustration about something, then sadness, feeling of worthlessness, irritability, that you abruptly behave or you feel irritated about something, then loss of interest in normal activities, whatever you used to enjoy, you stop enjoying it. Then you feel tired, fatigue, you have disturbance in your sleep or appetite, either you eat too much or you eat nothing. You are so those kind of things are there. And then the biggest challenge is person leads if a person is suffering from depression, it leads to the thoughts of suicide or death. Likewise, if a person is suffering from anxiety, like fear about the future, which happened mostly during this crisis period, that we were so uncertain about our future, whether we will get any vaccination, or whether we will lose our job, or is it possible that we can catch, like myself or my family member can catch infection. So those are all the continuous anxiety we all were feeling. That time the body reacted in the feeling of trembling in the body, or increased breathing rate, like you start breathing very heavily, or nervousness, or powerless, that because of this COVID-19 we are feeling so powerless, we cannot go out, we cannot meet friends, we cannot eat together, or any socialization or anything. Then you feel danger or panic, you have high heart rate, you sweat. And in between this, the three main things came up as a restlessness. Continuous, you will feel restless. Continuous, you will feel worrying. Continuous, you feel agitation. So you are not calm state anymore. So whenever a person is having this kind of depression or anxious symptoms, then most of the cases it happened that we ignore it, that it will go away, it is just because of this reason, and we keep on suffer in silence, don't seek any help, or we seek help once it is too much, when it is crisis situation and we are not able to handle. We always prioritize our psychological or emotional or mental health as a very low when we compare to our physical illness. And the main reason, as I mentioned before also, shame and guilt. If any of your friend is suffering from broken leg or cancer or diabetes or admitted in the hospital with broken head or something, you will immediately go and take care of that friend. But if some of your friend is suffering from any mental illness, you will try to avoid as much as possible. So this lack of care and support in our society because of shame, guilt, and stigma, that is also causing this kind of psychological illness increasing at a higher pace. So now the question is, what can we do? We can still do many things. That is a good news. So as we see the stressors and it impacts our physical and psychological health. So there are two things which we can do. We can change our perception about thinking something, and we can develop our coping skill. So let's try to understand how to build positive perception about any situation. So in this case scenario, I will try to just touch base with three things. First, your approach towards life, then your mindset, and the third thing is paying attention to the right. Let's understand the first one, which is approach towards life. So there are two approach towards life. First is outside in approach, and second is inside out approach. So once you are depending on all your happiness, your self-esteem, your self-worth, your sense of security, and anything which you feel inside is relating or is depending on something outside. For example, your job, your position, your education, your degree, or your relationship, either you are married or not, or you have children or not, you have big house, you have big bank balance. These all are reason for your something from inside, like self-esteem, self-worth, sense of security, happiness. Then if something goes wrong, you lose your job, you lose your family member, you lose your money, you lose your home, then that will impact your life a lot. And the second thing is inside out approach, that you are calm and composed. Your happiness, your peace, your security, your worth does not depend on any materialistic outside thing. You do not, even though you lose your job, still you are open to try, explore new things and try to find something else. You don't belong yourself with this body only. Rather, you try to see that your inner self, your inner energy, your inner qualities, how it is working and how it can help you. The second thing is mindset. So again, if you feel that any failure, any crisis is coming to kill you or to finish you or to ruin you, that kind of mindset will ruin you. Let's see any kind of challenges or problems as an opportunity to grow, because if there will be no stress, you won't progress in your life. So these are the challenges as a stairs for you to move ahead. Then paying attention to the right. So what happened that whatever negative is in our life, we just pay attention to that. We forget to pay attention whatever we have so far achieved in terms of relationship, in terms of well-being, in terms of money or anything. We just focus on what we don't have. For example, if you have one broken tooth or painful tooth, your tongue will always go to that tooth only. And it will not go to all the rest of the good tooth. It will only go to that tooth. Likewise, if we'll keep on focusing on the negative things in your life, then negativity will itself come to you, because wherever your focus is, that thing will come to your right. If you'll focus on the negative thing, only the negative things are coming to your life. If you're focused on the right thing, then all the good thing is coming to your life. Let's understand the tools which can help you to cope the stress. According to the World Health Organization latest report on the stress management, they give 5 tools, which I would like to briefly mention here. First is grounding. So for that, just like the tree, because once there is a storm, where do you want to go? You want to go to the ground, right? You don't want to sit on the top of the tree during the storm. You want to come down and stand on the floor, on the ground. Or again, if you see any tree which has deep root, that can face any kind of storm. Let's try to be like that. So the steps for the grounding is, first, let's try to understand, notice your thoughts and feelings which are bothering you. Then slowing down, connecting with your body, try to understand your breathing, do some stretching that can help you, and then refocus. Bring yourself in the present moment where you are. Either you are talking to someone, writing something, reading something, or doing any kind of work. Try to bring your attention fully with all your 5 senses, seeing, like breathing, touching, hearing, looking, or all your 5 senses, use it. Or you can smell. Those 5 senses used to refocus whatever you were doing at the present moment. Then engage yourself completely with the task you are doing. So being in the present moment is also known as grounding technique, where you try to be there and not moving around with your emotions and thoughts. The second tool which WHO gave is known as unhooking, because we all heard about storm, and here I would like to mention about emotional storm. When emotional storm comes, it takes us away. Whenever we want to try to come out of it, it is very difficult for us to come out. So as you see the fishing hook, so our negative thoughts or the thinking, sometimes this overthinking, it is like a hooking. It keeps on hooking us and keep us with those thoughts which you don't want to be. But those negative thoughts or the overthinking keep on bringing you the same way. So once you are not able to come out of any kind of this thinking problem, then there are some simple techniques which you can use. Is try to name that thought or the feelings. Like, here is a difficult thing, or here is tightness in my chest, or here is a feeling of anger, or here is difficult thought about my past, or then I notice here is this difficult thought. I notice I am fearful for my future. Those kind of thing, once you name your thought and feeling, then you are making yourself different or away from your feelings or the thoughts or your thinking. So this kind of making a distance from yourself to your thought will help you understand and calm down your thinking speed. Then again, refocus on what you are doing. Pay full attention to whoever is with you or whatever you are doing. So again, try to be in the present moment. That will again, so this will not happen just by listening or watching some kind of video how to be in present moment. This is just like another skill which you develop, like writing skill or any language skill or any skill you develop by practicing. So these kind of techniques can only be developed by proper practicing. It can take some time, some few weeks, but by regular practice it, fix a time that before bedtime or just after waking up or during my lunch hour, I will practice this kind of thing, and that will help you. Then what happened? Then once we get angry or we carried away with our emotions, then most of the time it happens that we forget to act on our values. And what are our values? Very simple values: being kind and caring, being helpful, being brave, being hardworking. These are the values of any humankind, which we need to keep on following. But when we are in this stressful or anxiety mode or depressed mode, first thing we do, we start behaving abruptly. We start like not caring about others, become very self-centered, angry, or a very abrupt emotional behavior. We do that, or there are chances we do have conflict with the others. That time, take a pause and see what are your values, very simple values, that being friendly is my value, or being like fight with others are my values. Then try to decide at that time of moment. Then being kind is um, one of the major sign of being human. So being kind can help you recovering from your emotional stress. So notice that you have pain in yourself and others, and try to respond with kindness, either for you or for yourself. So it will all start from your own self. If you cannot have self-compassion or self-care, you cannot have compassion or the care for others. Sorry. So just try to, so there are some steps which you can use. Try to speak yourself kindly and then behave in the same way with others also. So what happened that just like a sky, we need to be like a sky. A sky give the place to the sunshine, is the sun, the cloud, the rain, the storm, the snow. It gives space to everything without being bothered its own situation. Sorry. Same thing will happen once you let any challenge come to you. Don't get bothered too much. Make room for everything. Let it come, settle down with you, any problem, and then calmly try to handle that problem. Rather than making very panic or a stressful situation, you need to give the that emotion feeling, that abrupt or any kind of emotional distress or a stressful situation. Let it come to your life, it is coming, and take it make the space for that situation and then handle it. So sometimes it happens that we feel like very heavy chest, or very like knot in our belly, or headache. These all are the body parts which are getting impact with this stressful situation. So let's try to see what are we feeling and how these feeling can be reduced. Give it a, because once you feel resistant, we reluctant to have that kind of feeling, it will create more problem for you. Then the question is, as we talk about the healthy coping to mentally ill, so there are situations when we can cope up by ourselves, then we start reacting for very petty things, and that also lead to our poor mental health, and we are mentally ill. And then the question is when to seek help. When you start saying the words like stuck, I'm overwhelmed, I'm hopeless, I'm helpless, then it's time to seek some kind of help. Then ask someone to do reality test with you, your family member, and you get a sense of direction. If you can't get and you reaches a crisis point, then definitely it is a time to seek help. Or whenever you are in a stressful situation, don't take any big life decision or changing your school or job or anything, or getting married or those kind of thing. Give it as a pause. Try to seek a professional help, what to do, when to do. And the most alarming thing, whenever you feel that self-harm or suicidal thoughts come into your mind, definitely this is the tipping point. You need professional help. Then how to seek professional help? Just like you go for shopping, same way you need to seek professional help. List down all the symptoms you face. How long have you been experiencing? How is it impacting your daily life? Or any treatment you have tried in the past, or any pre-existing physical or mental condition, any physical symptoms you may or may not believe that may be related to it. Be patient and hopeful. Once you have all this is ready, you will go to seek professional help, but be always be ready that it is not one day treatment. Just like you eat paracetamol to cure your fever, to get fever down, it won't work that way. There will be combination of medicines, with the psychotherapy, with the counseling session, and together it will help you in a longer run. Not in like it will take few weeks to that you feel better. And there are some available resources in ethnic minority languages. Some links are there, some phone numbers are there. Whenever you feel negative or your family members need any help, please do contact these numbers. It will help you. Thank you so much. And I would like to take any questions if there is any.
Thank you, Dr. Vanda. So hopefully we can manage our stress and build stronger mental resilience. So now we are going to have the Q&A session. Please feel free to submit your questions in the conversation box. So let me check. And I see one participant asked that, I suspect that my colleagues suffer from mental illness, and he or she is from the ethnic minority, and he is unwilling to seek professional help. What should I do?
Right. So thank you so much for this wonderful question. And first, I would like to say that not only the ethnic minority, but any person, most of the chances, there are higher chances that if a person is suffering from mental illness, that person will always be very reluctant to seek any kind of help or to accept that there is some problem with that person. So here comes the role of colleagues or the family members or the people well-wishers who can give that person a very comfortable feeling, and be very supportive, caring, and non-judgmental. It's not that if I am sharing something with you and immediately you say, no, you are suffering from this, you are depressed, or you are having any kind of mental illness or something. Because as a colleague, we are not the not the mental health professionals. So just by letting that person speak up in a comfortable and safe environment, without the fear that this kind of sharing will impact or will have any repercussions on my job, my career, or I may lose this job, I may get fired, or people around me in my workplace will start stigmatizing me, making or discriminate me, or they will isolate me from being with the workplace or with the other colleagues. Those kind of feeling, so like shame and guilt, isolation kind of feeling, giving the reduction in the fear, that fear of losing the job or being non-judgmental, those kind of things which the colleagues at the workplace can use to help that person who is suffering from mental illness to seek proper help. Because once you take that person in confidence with you, then that person will start listening to you, understanding you what you want to say. So listening the person with support, care, and non-judgmental way can help you. That person willing to seek help.
And here comes the second question.
Yes.
How can we go about tackling language ability as a reason for poor mental well-being? And this question is from participants from ethnic minority background.
Okay. So can you come up the question again? I could not hear properly.
Oh, sorry. Let me repeat.
Yeah.
He asked about how can we go through tackling the language ability as a reason for poor mental well-being in assessing the information about COVID-19 or other resources about mental mental illness.
Sure. So yes, so as during my session also, I said that there are challenges with the linguistic accessibility of the information or the culturally appropriate care. But in this slide, I mentioned some of the resources which are available and which can be easily availed from any ethnic minority person, because they provide the language services, different kind of, they provide all the counseling or any kind of professional help in various languages. So you can call these number, access these information which is available in many different languages, and that can help you.
So thank you, Dr. Founder, for the valuable sharing. Now we move on to the polling session. A question will pop up on the screen. Please choose your answer within 3 minutes. For ethnic minorities, what are the reasons for poor mental health? A, language ability. B, lack of cultural competence. C, both A and B.
Yeah, so I would say C. So was this question for me?
Oh, that is for the participants.
Okay. So participants can answer this. I'm sorry. I thought this is for me.
With the help from Dr. Vandan, I see many of you have answered the question. Let me repeat it once again. For ethnic minorities, what are the reasons for poor mental health? A, language ability. B, lack of cultural competency. And C, both A and B. Time's up for the polling session. This is the end of today's webinar. Thank you for your participation. Hope we meet again soon.
Thank you, everyone.